Hello, I'm Rich, and welcome to Wings, Wheels, and Wires, a channel focused on electric vehicles. I own a BMW i3 electric vehicle, but when I'm in San Jorge, Nicaragua, this is my vehicle, a diesel-powered 1999 Nissan Patrol. Confused why that is an electric vehicle? Well, let's talk about that right now. Today's video is on a topic that really isn't covered near as much as it should be, and that is whether or not an EV is actually right for you or not. Now, why isn't this covered so much? Well, like many things these days, the topic of electric vehicles has become incredibly polarized. People in favor of electric vehicles focus on the environmental impact and the driving experience, and they believe that everyone should shift over to electric vehicles as quickly as possible. Likewise, those opposed to electric vehicles focus on things like range, charge times, depreciation, and they believe that EVs are a terrible thing and nobody should buy them. Going back to the introduction, you would expect me as a pro-EV person to be in the side of EVs are perfect for everyone all the time. But that just isn't really true. Will they be someday? I think so. But not necessarily today for some people. As an example, a friend of mine asked me whether or not his girlfriend should buy an electric vehicle. After talking with him and doing some research, I came to the conclusion that no, she should not. As a matter of fact, I even recommended against a plug-in hybrid and recommended that she go with a mild hybrid. Now, stick around to the end of the video if you want to see how I came to that conclusion. So how can you tell if an EV is right for you? Well, I think it breaks down to three simple ideas: your environment, your needs, and you. I'm going to be grading these on a 1 to 10 scale for the left brain viewers out there, but please feel free to either use your own values or disregard these numbers completely if you don't think that way. Let's start with your environment. If you have your own dedicated parking with EV charging available, then this part of EV ownership is going to be absolutely a breeze, and you should give yourself a 10 in this category. However, if you live in an apartment complex that has EV charging, then you should give yourself more like anywhere from a 7 to 9, depending upon how inconvenient it is, because of competition for the chargers and having to stay up late or get up early in order to plug or unplug your charger and move out of the stall. Now, if you don't have either one of these, let's see if charging fits into your life somewhere else. Do you have charging at or near your work? If you do, I would say give yourself a 9 and then subtract 1 point for every extra 30 yards you have to walk from the charger to your work. Now, you can adjust this up or down depending upon how much you enjoy walking, but take into account that you are not going to enjoy walking when it's snowing, raining, super hot, super cold, or if you're in a hurry. Oh, and you might be wondering how you would be able to find this information out. There are a variety of different apps that can help you find EV charging, all the way up to and including Google Maps. The best app here in the United States for this, I think, is PlugShare. Let me know down in the comments section below if you would like me to do a video on the various different apps that support EV charging and facilitate EV ownership. If you don't have either of these, life with electric vehicle will be much more difficult, but not impossible. For example, if you have EV fast charging near where you frequent, then you can use that. For example, our local Target has Tesla superchargers right in front of it. So if you shop at Target frequently and don't need to charge so frequently, basically every time you go shopping, you just plug it in, fill it up while you're shopping, come out, and you're good to go. This could work. If you need to give this a score, I would give it anywhere from a 3 to a 7 based on just how much charging locations and your frequently stopped places align. If you don't have any of this, then owning an EV is going to be incredibly difficult, and it probably isn't for you, at least at this time. They are adding new chargers all the time, so this could change in the future. If you are enjoying this video, please hit that like button down below. While you're down there, hitting the subscribe button would greatly support the channel. And, of course, don't forget to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And stand by to the end of the video to hear my new subscriber shoutouts. Next, let's talk about your needs, starting with your driving routine. How often do you travel someplace that's 200 miles round trip? The less frequent, the better an EV will be for you, and the more frequent, the worse it'll be. As an example, if you only plan to do local driving and commuting, then an EV will be perfect for you and give yourself a 10. But lower that score the more often that you make very long road trips. You see, one of the main criticisms of EVs is the long wait time for charging while you're on road trips. And while this is pretty generally exaggerated, it is true that it does take longer to charge an electric vehicle than it does to put gas in your car. You can figure on average it's about 30 minutes to get from 0 to 80%. And of course, the make and model of the vehicle and the type of charger can either alter this number up or down, depending. Now, before we go beating up EVs on how much time we're going to lose charging them, you need to take into account the other side of the coin that no one ever talks about, and that is the time that you save with EV charging. That's right, EV charging saves you time. Now, if you want a complete breakdown on what I mean by that, you can click on this video right here. But if you don't want to click on that video, let me give you a brief breakdown of what I mean. If you have home or work charging, it will usually be a level 2 charger, and while it may take several hours to actually charge, the amount of your time that it takes to unplug and plug the charger back in is about 15 seconds. This is compared to a mere 5 minutes to fully fuel a car, but that will be 5 minutes that's 100% your time dedicated to that. Earlier, I used the range of 200 miles. Now, this is simply a baseline. EVs come in a variety of ranges, and which one you buy would be impacted by your needs. For example, if you are only going to be doing city driving and short commutes and short trips, well, then things like a BMW i3, Mini EV, Smart EV might all be perfect matches for you. However, the more long road trips you make, the more you might want to consider a long-range Tesla or a Lucid, for example, that has almost up to 500 miles of range. Now, this was a really great opportunity to point out the fact that the word EV is a very broad term. You have all the way down to from a 2-seat mini EV all the way up to a 7-seat SUV and or pickup trucks. So there's also the fact of what kind of vehicle meets your needs. And this is kind of important because the type of vehicle you need may influence also whether or not an EV is right for you or not. The last factor is you. If you're the person who constantly has to borrow someone else's cell phone because you forgot to charge yours, an EV might not be for you. Now, this may sound like a joke, but I have seen people who constantly struggle with keeping their vehicles charged. My son had been a perfect example of this. He also has a BMW i3 Rex. And until recently, every time he came over, he would be running on the Rex because he had forgotten to charge or didn't take the opportunity to charge. Now, I suppose if he had electric-only version, he either would have had to get better at this or he would have walked to work a whole lot. You see, the reality is that owning an electric vehicle is different than owning a gas car, and it will require some behavior changes on your part. And if you struggle with making those changes, then owning an electric vehicle is going to be more difficult, at least for a while. A good example of this is planning your charging stops before you go on a road trip. In a gas car, you can go ahead and drive until the tank gets relatively low and then look for a gas station. But with an electric vehicle, you can get yourself into some real trouble with this if you can't find a charger. Patience would be another good example. When you do eventually find yourself sitting at a public charger, how will you handle it? Will you be able to entertain yourself? Will you be able to do productive things like clean your car while you wait? Or will you just sit there going nuts about the fact that you have to sit there at a charger? Since this area is so subjective, I'm going to leave it to you to come up with your score. The idea is if you're good at plugging your devices, planning ahead, and enjoy downtime, then you'll give yourself a very high score. But the less good you are at these things, the lower that score is going to be. Now that you've given yourself a score in the 3 different areas, go ahead and add them up. If the total score is 24 or higher, I would say that an EV is probably a very good match for you. Now, if the scores are somewhere between 18 and 23, then an EV may not be a good fit and a plug-in hybrid may be a better option. Now, if you are in this range and you still want an EV, I think it would be a really good idea, rather than purchasing one outright, to go with a long-term rental or a short-term lease. This lets you try it out and experience EV life for yourself. Many people find that the fun of owning an EV and some of the conveniences outweigh the little inconveniences and make them a lot more tolerable than they expected them to be. For scores below 18, the lower the score, the less likely an EV or even a plug-in hybrid is to work for you, and the more likely a hybrid. So now let's go back to the example of my friend's girlfriend that we talked about earlier and why I did not recommend electric vehicles for her. So she lived in an apartment and had no charging available at or near the apartment. She also had no charging at or near her work. There were some DC fast charging stations en route between the two, though. So we're going to give her a total score in this category of a 4. Moving on to her needs, she had a 70-mile round-trip commute every day. Most of this drive was done at highway speeds, which is not ideal for an electric vehicle, but electricity is still cheaper than gas, so it still might have worked for her. So for this one, I gave her a 7 out of 10. Not doing too bad so far, right? For the last category, she is a very on-the-go person who would have very little patience for waiting at a charger. So, since she has no charging available at work or at home, she would have to stop at one of the en route DC fast chargers. And she, of course, could do this in combination with things like shopping. However, she's such an impatient and on the go person that she would not have time or the patience to go shopping. She actually orders everything she needs. So for this category, she got a perfect 0, giving her a total score of 11. All right, so when we tally these 3 scores, we end up with an 11 out of 30, which is absolutely terrible. She has no business owning an EV, and honestly, any vehicle with a plug would be useless to her. So let me know down below, did you find this video useful? Does it help you in your decision on whether or not to get an electric vehicle? And for people who already own an electric vehicle, does this system seem reasonable? Does it match your real life experiences? All right, thanks for watching. Stick around for my subscriber shout out. And here's another video YouTube thinks you're going to like.
And now it's time for the subscriber shout-outs. If you'd like your own shout-out, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel and either make sure your name is visible or put in the comments down below that you subscribed.
Scott O'Keefe, VC2TB, Selena No Limits,